In today's video, I will be covering the main combat mechanics that you will need to know for the start of your Dark Souls journey. At its core, the combat mechanics are relatively simple, but they are also deep and nuanced. Dark Souls is literally a world of kill or be killed, so don't be surprised if you die. A lot. It will happen, so don't let this deter you on your playthrough. Dying is very much so a learning experience, and trial and error is your friend. To start off with, your main focus should be learning to defend yourself and staying alive. Patience is key, so try not to rush in to attack the enemy. Observe them and attack when the time is right. There are various combat elements that will aid you in your journey, so let's go over some of the essentials. Stamina is your character's energy and is visualised by the green bar below your health bar in the top left hand corner of the screen. In order to do pretty much anything in Dark Souls, it will require the use of stamina, whether this is attacking, blocking, parrying, rolling or running. So learning how to manage your stamina will be a key factor in your success. As long as you aren't doing any of these actions, your stamina will regenerate over time. A common mistake new players make is to always have their shield held up in a blocked position. Doing this drastically slows down the rate of stamina regeneration, meaning that always holding block will more than likely result in you dying more often. If you are a player who uses a shield a lot, learn to let the shield go down and only raise it to block when you anticipate an attack from the enemy. If you run out of stamina, your only option left is to slowly walk away in the hopes that your enemy doesn't decide to just stab you in the back. And they will try. While it may be tempting to attack your enemy as many times as possible, the resulting lack of stamina will leave you vulnerable to defending yourself. There are several different types of physical attacks. These are regular, slash, strike and thrust. Different weapons will do different types of physical attacks, and depending on whether you do a normal or strong attack will also determine what type of attack you do. For example, a weapon's normal attack may be a slash attack, but its strong attack is a thrust. The simplest of these is the normal attack. In order to do this, press the R1 RB button and you'll perform a quick light attack. A normal attack will deal a moderate amount of damage to the enemy, and is handy to get in quick attacks before evading any counter attacks. Your other main attack will be a strong attack. To do this, press the R2 right trigger button and you will perform a longer, heavier attack. The strong attack will deal a much bigger amount of damage compared to the normal attack. However, due to it taking a longer time to perform, it will leave you open to receiving a successful counterattack from the enemy. In addition to a normal or strong attack, you are also able to wield a weapon one-handed or two-handed. In order to change your stance from one-handed to two-handed, press the triangle or Y button. The main advantage of wielding a weapon with two hands is that while doing so, you are granted a 50% bonus to your strength stat. This will increase the damage output of any weapon that scales with strength. See your weapon strength parameter bonus to see if your weapon applies to this. It will also enable you to wield a weapon which requires a higher strength stat than you currently have. For example, if a weapon requires a strength level of 15 to wield it, and your strength stat is only leveled up to 10, then the 50% bonus from two-handing the weapon will bump your strength stat up to 15, allowing you to successfully use it. Bear in mind though, if you are using both hands to wield your weapon, you will not be able to utilise a shield for blocking or parrying. Any special abilities the shield may give you will still take effect only as long as the shield is on your back. Kicking in Dark Souls is one of the most finicky combat mechanics. The time when kicking most comes in handy is when you're up against an enemy who constantly blocks your attacks with a shield. You can kick the enemy by pushing forward on the left analog stick while pressing the R1 right button at the exact same time. Once their guard has been broke, you can attack as normal. But be warned, this mechanic has very specific timing, and 9 times out of 10 you'll probably end up doing a normal attack by accident. It is worth noting there is a very specific NPC where kicking them off a ledge will be to your advantage. Parrying is one of the most useful and satisfying combat mechanics in Dark Souls. A parry is where you deflect an enemy's attack using your left-handed shield or weapon. To do this, press the L2 left trigger button at the moment the enemy's weapon starts moving towards you during their attack. This will then deflect the attack, throw the enemy back, leaving them open for you to perform a riposte. A successful parry will be noticeable by the enemy's staggered animation and an audible echoing cue. In Dark Souls, critical hits are high damage attacks that come in two forms, ripostes and backstabs. Depending on what your weapon's critical value is, will depend on whether you deal any additional damage for a successful critical hit. For example, if your weapon's critical value is 100, then you won't do any additional damage using a critical hit. However, if your critical value is 120, then you will do an extra 20% damage for each successful critical hit. When positioned behind an enemy at close range, you have the ability to perform a backstab. Backstabs deal a massive amount of damage and are almost always worth attempting if the opportunity arises. When you are positioned directly behind the enemy, press the R1 right button to perform a backstab. As a rough rule of thumb, only humanoid or player-sized enemies can be backstabbed, but there are a few exceptions to this rule. A riposte is a critical attack that can be executed once you have successfully parried an enemy. Once the enemy is in their staggered animation, press the R1 right button to perform a riposte. It is worth noting that during your riposte animation, your character is completely invulnerable. However, there is a small window as it ends where you can be hit before you recover from the riposte. Given the right scenario, you may find yourself in an elevated position above an enemy. In this situation, you can drop down and press R1 right button as you fall to perform a plunging attack. Certain enemies are weak to this type of attack, and against these enemies you'll trigger a special animation once you land on top of them. This will result in a potentially gigantic amount of damage being dealt in a single blow. By pressing the right analog stick on your controller, you can lock on to the nearest enemy, providing you are within range. To switch target, move the right analog stick left or right, and this will cycle through any available enemies within range. Locking onto your enemies will help direct your attacks in the correct general direction. However, this feature is not always 100% accurate, and you may find yourself aimlessly swinging into thin air. Choosing when and when not to lock on is a key skill to learn, as sometimes the best solution may be to use free movement. When you are locked onto a target, the camera will mostly keep the view locked onto that enemy, which means it may be hard to keep track of other enemies in your local vicinity. Blocking an attack will allow you to absorb the damage from enemy attacks. The amount of damage you absorb will depend on the damage reduction stat on the shield or item you are using to block with. The heater shield is a very good early game shield that will negate 100% of any physical damage taken, provided you have the stamina. If you attempt to block an attack with not enough stamina, you will enter the guard broken pose. This will leave you completely open to receiving a critical attack from the enemy, and usually result in your death due to the increased damage boost the enemy gains from performing a critical attack. There are a few different ways that you can evade enemy attacks. In most scenarios, this will be the safer option rather than attacking or blocking. As long as you are locked onto an enemy, circle strafing will enable you to circle around the enemy by moving left or right. This helps to minimise receiving enemy attacks while still facing the enemy, so you are in the perfect position to counter-attack. One key benefit of circle strafing is that it very easily allows you to position yourself directly behind the enemy, ready to perform a backstab. Another way to evade enemy attacks is to use the backstep. You can do this by pressing B or circle while stationary. This helps to create space between you and the enemy without turning your back on them. This is handy for both evading and setting up an attack, as you can backstep then immediately attack as the enemy runs towards you. In order to roll in Dark Souls, you will need to tap the B or circle button while holding the left analog stick in the direction you want to roll. Rolling is a really good mechanic for avoiding enemy attacks, especially as during your roll you are invulnerable for a short period of time. In most circumstances, rolling will be preferable to blocking an attack because you will have a better chance to counterattack while they recover. However, with great power comes great responsibility, and the ease to panic roll when death is staring you in the eyes may actually be the cause of your death and not your salvation. Your character's equipment weight determines how fast you will roll. If your equipment weight is between 0 and 25% of your maximum equipment load, this will make you fast roll. If it's between 25% and 50%, this will make you medium roll. And if your equipment weight is between 50 and 100%, this will make you slow roll. If your character exceeds the maximum equipment load, then you will not be able to roll at all. If you attempt to do so, you will trigger the stagger animation, leaving you open to an attack. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. Sun Tzu. It is worth remembering that you can simply run away from an enemy by holding down the B or circle button, and sometimes this will be your best course of action. A good strategy when dealing with multiple enemies is to run away and then attack the nearest enemy as it runs towards you, then rinse and repeat until all foes have been slain. As with rolling, your equipment weight will determine how fast your character moves. If your equipment weight is 0% of your maximum equipment load, this will allow you to run at the maximum speed. If it's between 0.1% and 25% of your maximum equipment load, this will allow you to run fast. If it's between 25% and 50%, this will allow you to run at a medium pace. And if your equipment weight is between 50% and 100%, this will make you run slowly. If you exceed the maximum equipment load, you will not be able to run and are forced to walk. Upgrading your weapons is one of the best ways to make yourself more effective in combat. The extra power gained through upgrading weapons as much as possible will make a huge difference in your ability to take down enemies in fewer hits, therefore putting you at less risk in battle. To find out more information on weapon upgrades, keep an eye out for my next video. Thank you for watching. I really hope this guide has helped you survive longer in Dark Souls. If it has, why not drop the video a like and let me know which attacks you like using the most in the comments section below. To help support the channel and to get notifications for any upcoming videos, please click the subscribe button below. If you would like to learn more about weapon upgrades, make sure you check out my next video. If you're still unsure about which starter class to pick or which starter gift to choose, why not check out some of my other videos?